You're listening to the Huddle Up Podcast with Chad Jensen and Zack Kelberman. Join Broncos Country's deep divers at milehighhuddle.com and sound off. And now it's time to drop some knowledge.
Hey, we are live. We're going to let the stream breathe just for a second here. Make sure it's nice and stable for our great listeners out there in Broncos country. Welcome in, everybody, to the Huddle Up Podcast, presented, as always, by Mile High Huddle, powered by Overtime Media. I'm your host, Chad Jensen, and with me, as always, my partner in crime. You know him, you love him. He is Zack Kelberman. Zack, it's really been interesting. I know one of your jobs, obviously, is covering the Cowboys for Heavy.com. Yeah. It's been interesting. We were just talking about this right before we hit the old go live button. We're not going to derail the podcast. Don't worry, guys. But it's been interesting to see how this back and forth, the negotiations between Dak Prescott and the Cowboys has unfolded. What's the latest, dude?
It's still ongoing. They offered him $35 a year at $106+ million guaranteed, and considering he hasn't put pen to paper, doesn't seem like he's satisfied with that contract, Chad. And they have until July 15th. He's franchise tagged right now, but he's really holding out for that $40 million, I think, mark, and to blow past Jared Goff's $110 million guaranteed. And you can debate whether he's worth that much money, but he thinks he is, and he's holding firm to his demands. So back and forth we go.
Just think, man, if Drew Lock can capitalize on all these weapons that John Elway's given him, if he can really take to Pat Shurmur and Mike Shula's coaching, you know, he's got to pine away for about 3 years, slave away, so to speak, on that second round rookie contract, which is, let's face it, it's not exactly chopped liver. He's making a nice living, but still, that kind of money awaits the next wave of franchise quarterbacks.
Yeah, Patrick Mahomes included. I mean, whatever, if Dak signs right now, Mahomes is going to blow past it. He's going to set the new high water mark, and the market's always changing, Chad, but fortunately the Broncos don't have to worry about this problem for a while. We talked about that yesterday with the Broncos, these stars being on the rookie deals and Elway not jumping to pay him more money than he has to. That's exactly why, especially for someone like Drew Lock. Unless he becomes a Mahomes, Elway is going to milk that rookie deal every day, every year until he has to pay the guy, because when it's come time to pay Drew Lock, Chad, I can only shudder to think the guaranteed money, the annual salary, $45-50 million in a couple of years, it's going to be insane.
That's why they got to strike while the iron's hot, right? They've got to try and pull a Seattle Seahawks of 2013, where, you know, you've been able to invest in different areas on the roster and really beef up a lot of your holes. There's no way to field a perfect roster, and even the best teams in the league don't have a perfect roster. The world champions currently this year, the Kansas City Chiefs, they had a far from perfect roster, but the Broncos have this year plus 2 more years to make as much hay as they can with Drew Lock being on a rookie contract, because you get to the end of that point, what is it, 2023-ish? Von Miller's in his 13th year, something like that, 13th, going into his 14th year. You wonder how this salary cap is going to look for the Broncos when that time comes, because if Drew Lock is the quarterback that the team thinks he is, that day is coming, and the reckoning is going to really break open that checkbook.
The Broncos window is open right now, Chad. When you're considering Drew Lock's on his rookie deal, Cortland Sutton, Phillip Lindsay, this is the time to strike while the iron's hot. Before you have to pay Von Miller, before all these new contracts come up, the next 2 years, the Broncos, we don't want to predict a Super Bowl, but they're going to have to put themselves back on the NFL map within the next couple years. And at least if they have to pay Lock down the road, have to pay Cortland Sutton, they'll do so from a position of power, knowing we're already contenders and they're just the sprinkles on top and they're worth the investment.
Guys, today what we wanted to at least open our conversation with, and then, of course, we'll see what's on everyone's mind in the chat stream and the Super Chat Superstars. What we wanted to talk about, though, is today Mike Kliss reported the signing bonuses for the undrafted rookies. The Broncos, of course, drafted 10 players and then signed 7 undrafted rookies. And, of course, there's always a little subtext and there's implications in these signing bonus figures. And none of these signing bonuses are going to blow you away, right? We're not talking about many millions of dollars, but as we'll get into here in just a minute, you can infer certain things from how the Broncos paid these guys in terms of what the Broncos are envisioning these respective players fitting in, et cetera, et cetera. We're going to get to that here in just a second. First, guys, just a couple of quick matters of business. And I get asked this every once in a while, why we have to go through this at the top of every show. This show is growing exponentially by the week, you guys. And so probably anywhere between 600 to 1,000 new listeners join this show each and every week across all the different platforms. I'm not just talking about the live streams, but the people who listen to this podcast religiously after the fact, whether it's on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, iHeart, wherever. It's growing. And so we have to make sure all of our new listeners know how to reach us and connect with us. So that's why the matters of business always will remain quickly at the top of the show. We get through them as quick as possible. Make sure you're following the podcast on Twitter at HuddleUpPod. That's how you keep your finger on the pulse of what's happening with the show in real time. And while you're at it, you're going to want to make sure as well that you follow the main account for MHH at Mile High Huddle. That's how you make sure that you don't miss any breaking Broncos news and analysis as it's unfolding. And then, of course, if you're in a position to, check out our merch store, huddleuppod.com, and get your swag on. Get yourself one of these hats. Get yourself a T-shirt. Get yourself a Mile High Huddle State of Being hoodie. Get yourself one of these masks. Again, it's a little warm where I'm at in the Rockies right now, so I'm not going to put it on, but get yourself one of these face masks. And even once the situation that shall go unnamed passes us by, once it's in the rear view, having one of those MHH face masks, man, the utility of it is great. You can take them hunting, you can take them camping, cold weather stadium games when the football season rolls around. So a lot of different uses, and on the relative cheap, not too expensive on the huddleuppod.com. But it's all a great way to support what we're doing. And if you're not in a position to do that, it's all good. Like this video, share this video. Those are two simple organic things you can do to really help what Zach and I are doing along with the other podcasts here at Mile High Huddle.
This is the Overtime Podcast Network.
All right, Zach, let's just quickly say hi to those who have been hanging out in the stream. Of course, Buona Beast, the mayor of our community there on YouTube, and MHH staff member. Frankie, what's going on, my friend? Stu, Toy Mafia, Jalen, Bronx Legend is in the hizzy. Let's see who else. We got Big E Bronco. What's going on, my friend? It's good to see each and every one of you, and thank you for joining us in the chat stream. We're going to get to your questions. We're going to get to what's on your mind, and, of course, our Super Chat superstars here in just 1 second. First things first, Zach, today, Mike Kliss of 9 News, let us know exactly what the signing bonuses were for Denver Broncos, 7 undrafted rookies. And I'll just go through them kind of one at a time and serve them up to you real quick.
Yeah.
At the very top of the chain, the most the Broncos paid out, both from a signing bonus perspective and a guarantee, is to the running back, Levante Bellamy, out of Western Michigan. Now, $25,000 is what the Broncos paid him to sign today. And then they also guaranteed him an additional $35,000. And I got asked this question today, Zach, and then I'll let you run with this, the implications of this. I was asked, what's the difference between a signing bonus and a guarantee for an undrafted rookie? The signing bonus is the big time kind of recruiting tool. If you sign with us, we'll give you this much. And teams compete, I'm being offered $23,000 from Pittsburgh or whatever. Broncos got up to $25K. It's a pretty big nut for an undrafted rookie. As an example, Philip Lindsay 2 years ago garnered a $15,000 signing bonus, and they had to compete, did the Broncos, with other teams like the Baltimore Ravens, who were very serious about signing Philip Lindsay. So $25,000 almost, not quite, almost doubles as a signing bonus what the Broncos gave Philip Lindsay 2 years ago. And then that $35,000 guarantee, Zach, as a lot of people know, but there's some who don't. It just means that that's money the Broncos will owe Levante Bellamy, whether he makes this roster or not. And it usually implies, obviously, that the team isn't just bringing this rookie in for a scratch and sniff, see how he does. They envision some long-term viability there, whether that means practice squad or the 53.
Exactly. Yeah. It doesn't necessarily mean these signing bonuses that they're going to have him on the 53-man roster. It means they want him on the squad in some capacity. They want to own his rights as opposed to him competing his services for other teams as an undrafted free agent. I don't know if Bellamy is going to make the final 53, but he's like a great value version of Philip Lindsay. He can do a lot of the same things Philip Lindsay can. He's a scat back. He's a quick guy between the tackles along the outside. He can get to the edge. I like what he brings to the table. I just don't know that he's going to unseat Royce Freeman to be that RB3 right away. I mean, as an undrafted guy, it's not an overly big guarantee, Chad. It's not a couple $1 million like a Theo Riddick got last year from the Broncos. He's someone the Broncos think has a future, but that future can start out on the practice squad. It can start out being waived and brought back after final cuts. There's a a multitude of ways to get to the 53, as Philip Lindsay can attest, being the number 6 running back. I like what Bellamy brings. I just think the Broncos are going to roll with their incumbent. It's Royce Freeman's job to lose unless he falls flat in his face. And if he does, then Bellamy's right there.
And last year, of course, different offensive scheme, but last year the Broncos carried 4 running backs on the 53 when you include the fullback. Now, the fact that Pat Shurmur does not utilize the fullback much in his offense, there's no true pure fullback on this roster after the Broncos traded Andy Janovich to Cleveland. You wonder if they're going to try and capitalize on that and not have to carry as many seats at running back as they did last year, for example. But if they do choose to carry 4, there's a spot waiting for Levante Bellamy. And clearly, I know he's a guy that, for example, Eric Trickle is really high on. And I think he had for Bellamy, if I'm not mistaken, a 6th-round grade. So the Broncos are playing with some house money there. They're showing him a little bit of love. It by no means guarantees him a place on the roster, but it does kind of hint that they have some plans and expectations for Levante Bellamy. My advice would be to fans is go check out some of his film. There's plenty of it on YouTube. All right, the next highest, Zach, is hopefully you guys can see this. I did a quick share screen so that our live viewers can kind of see what we're doing here. Asang Bassi, the defensive back, corner, nickel guy out of Wake Forest, the Broncos gave him $20,000, which again is $5,000 more than Philip Lindsay got 2 years ago, different position, obviously. But let's compare it to 2011. Now, that's obviously a decade in the rear view, so times have changed. Inflation is a thing. Values increase in the NFL. But Chris Harris Jr., when he signed out of Kansas in 2011, got $2,000. $2,000 was the only promise he got from the Denver Broncos to come bust his butt and try and make the roster. And one thing that's so cool about the Chris Harris story is within 4 years, he parlayed that $2,000 signing bonus into $42.5 million contract. So that's what could be for any one of these undrafted rookies. But Asang Bassi, the second highest, how do you see him fitting in this year?
See, this is where I don't think money dictates a person standing on the roster or lack thereof. Maybe it's subjective. Maybe it's my opinion, Chad. But Bassi, to me, is a guy who's going to make the 53 more than likely. He's going to be the number 5 cornerback. He might even push Isaac Adams to safety. I love what he brings to the table. The Broncos, he should have been drafted. The fact they got him as an undrafted guy was a coup in itself. $20,000 is chump change for a guy who can be on the roster, competing on game day, special teams, and the defensive backfield for Vic Fangio. This is a guy, money regardless of what he earned. This is a guy who's going to be on the 53 come September, Chad.
All right, let me just run through these, and then we'll grab the super chats that are stacking up here. Zamari Manning, I'll be honest with you. It surprised me. If you would have asked me before this was released, how would the order of value go? I would have expected Zamari Manning's signing bonus to be among the lowest because he's coming from basically a no-name school, plenty of level of competition type of questions with regard to him. Wouldn't surprise me if some of the teams didn't even know who he was. And maybe that's underestimating the NFL's reach a little bit. But nevertheless, Zamari Manning checks in with the 3rd highest signing bonus among these 7 undrafted rookies, $12,500 to sign. And then the last one I really want to mention here, because everything else is kind of just run of the mill, is the wideout, Zach, from Wake Forest, the former quarterback turned wide receiver, Kendall Hilton, who got $10,000 to sign, plus, don't ask me why, but they gave him an additional $5,000 they'll promise him later on in the season. So your thoughts on basically how, and Riley Neal, $8,000, Douglas Coleman, the safety, $5,000, which surprises me how low that one was. And then Hunter Watts, the tackle from Central Arkansas, $3,000.
What it says to me is that Hilton has a pretty good agent negotiating that guaranteed salary more than other people.
That.
So I'm not putting too much stock in the guaranteed numbers. It's fun to dissect as an analyst, Chad. It's fun to ponder what if and connect the dots. But Bellamy, he got the highest amount. I don't personally feel he'll be on the 53, whereas Bassi didn't get that high amount. And Coleman, I think, is going to make the 53 or at least the practice squad to be the future long-term number 3 safety. So it's fun to talk about. But ultimately, this is nothing, Chad. This is money you find in the couch cushions for NFL teams, $12,000, $15,000, $20,000.
It's really true because even if only one of these guys makes the 53, which would be, you can kind of expect that. I think it's 16 of the last 17 years the Broncos have had an undrafted rookie make the 53 out of camp. I mean, even the biggest number there, the $25,000 going to Levante Bellamy, I mean, that's chump change. If he makes the 53, he's going to get something close to or approaching $600,000. Now, That's not all guaranteed. He's not a vested veteran. So, if he ends up only being makes it the 53 out of camp, for example, but only manages to stick for 3 games before he gets waived, and then, the Broncos try to sneak him back on the practice squad, he would only get 3 game checks worth of that $600,000. But if he stays and he's stuck on, that's what would await him just as the lowest man on the totem pole, just the bottom of the roster. So, the NFL is a big cash cow. And if these guys can find a way to excel in training camp, riches in the literal sense await. Bronx legend jumping in, bona fide super chat superstar. Probably the first super chat on each and every podcast for, I don't know, Zach, I want to say at least 2-3 weeks. And there might be, I might be omitting 1 or 2 pods, but if so, it's not many. Appreciate you, Bronx legend. Bronx. And as you know, we got a little something coming your way. So it'll be hopefully here soon. You'll be seeing that arrive on your doorstep. He says, my favorite undrafted rookies are Coleman and Bassey. What's the chances, of Coleman becoming something in the NFL? I think he's, if you listen to what Eric says, and Eric's done a lot more film study on Coleman, he's the quintessential Vic Fangio defensive back. Yeah. So is Bassey. Bassey's just a little bit undersized. So I think Coleman could be something, but you just don't want to get too far out over your skis because, there's a reason why these guys, I don't want to betray any kind of ignorance, I guess, for lack of a better term, because these guys, they could find their way onto the roster, but you don't want to get too out over your skis. There's a reason they went undrafted. So I think Coleman could be something, but let's see him in camp first. Right. Let's see how he competes. But it's a great opportunity because Zach, once you get past Justin Simmons, right, once you get past Kareem Jackson, you got Trey Marshall, and then it really falls off a cliff. So opportunity knocks.
Exactly what I was going to say. Compared him to Bassey and Bellamy and Watts and Hilton, there's a dearth of safeties on the roster right now. There's a clear path to, if not playing time, then a roster spot for someone like Douglas Coleman. But I do feel Denver is really high on Trey Marshall as a number 3 safety. I feel like Fangio has been kind of grooming him for that role. The Broncos for a few years now have been grooming Marshall for that role. I think he's going to get the first crack to step in for Will Parks in that job. And it's his to lose. Again, it's like Royce Freeman. He's the incumbent. And if Trey Marshall falls on his face, then Coleman will be there. But he's going to have to earn that spot. It's not going to be given just because he got some extra money as a UDFA.
This is the Overtime Podcast Network.
Chris K jumping in to show us some love. Appreciate you, my friend.
Thank you.
He says, love what you're doing. First time on an actual live stream. Enjoy the content. Keep it up. Hope you're staying safe and healthy. The feeling is mutual. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Bonafide Super Chat Superstar.
There it is.
Terry jumping in right at the top of the show up in Canada, proving, as always, Broncos country is not a geographic location. It is a state of being, baby. And, we're sharing a brain, dude. Check out my shirt. Straight out of I think That's Good Sports. I got it from Brandon. Hit the like, guys. That's a simple way you can support what we're doing. We got about 250 watching on YouTube right now. Probably about double that on Facebook. So it's a simple, easy way that you can support the show. All right, let me see what else we got going on here.
You can tap it. You can smash it. You can just pound it. Any way that like button gets pressed, as long as it gets pressed.
Jack Sullivan jumping in with a $2 super.
Thank you, Jack.
Just showing some love here. No question. He says, Chad and Zach, you guys are the best. # state of being. Very cool, Jack. I'd be curious to know where you're at in the world, my friend, when it comes to state of being. Mike Evans jumping in. Appreciate you, Mike. $5 super, becoming a real superstar here at Mile High Huddle. Appreciate you, bro. He says, keep up the great work. We appreciate you. Zach, I think it's fair to say that we feel the love. We know how much these podcasts mean to people in terms, and it's not just because of the word that shall go unmentioned on this podcast for the time being still. It's overall the way you guys work these podcasts into your life and, doing dishes, you're doing the laundry and you got to go and you're out in the yard, you're at work killing time too. And it's actually quite humbling to realize how much our podcast means, not to everybody, but to our core audience. It's phenomenal.
I remember one guy said a few months ago he was waiting to put his baby down for a nap, and he was listening to us first before doing that. I was just so blown away and taken aback by that. You guys truly are the best. And every time Mike Evans pop up, though, Chad, I'm thinking it's the fan Mike Evans. I'm always kind of
right.
suspicious.
Right. Michaela. I know I had it right that one time. Dang it. I think it's Michaela. Man, these kind of things bother me.
It's the biggest mystery of 2020.
I'm sorry if I'm screwing it up, but really appreciate you, my friend. And that $10 super chat means a lot to us. She says, I hope Drew has a Patrick Mahomes type of season. I'm hopeful. You know, Zach, it's not outside the realm of the possible. We've now had 2 consecutive years in the NFL where a second-year quarterback, I wouldn't quite say they come out of nowhere because they're former high-round picks. Even Lamar Jackson, late first-round pick. Drew Lock, early second-round pick. Patrick Mahomes, bona fide first-rounder. But still, second-year guys who no one was necessarily expecting to see a quantum leap, boom. And so would it be outside the realm of the possible for Drew Lock to be maybe make that 3 years in a row? The NFL has that type of a second-year leap?
All those guys have the physical talent, but what took Jackson and Mahomes to the next level, Chad, was coaching. We talked about it yesterday, and it's all on Pat Shurmur. Drew Lock will, I think, advance on his own path. I think he has enough commitment to the game and certainly enough physical talent. It's up to Shurmur to develop him as a quarterback whisperer and call the right plays to maximize his potential and the potential of those around him. If he can do that, if all things and the stars align, if all things go according to plan, it can be the year of Drew Lock. Just don't hold your breath on that expecting to happen. If he can finish 4,000 yards, 3,800 yards, 25, 28 touchdowns, that is a major, major success.
John Clay, watching on Periscope. Good to have you here, my friend. We always want to shout out each and every one of our audience members. Speaking of Johnny C, baby, he's watching. He's one of our Super Chat superstars watching on Twitch tonight, which is cool to see. Hashtag state of being, my friend. Good to see you. Thanks for being with us. Let's grab the Brett-tastic one on Twitter, right? I got that right, Brett. $20 super chat. Very generous. Awesome. Thank you, Brett. Hello, gentlemen. What do you think of Coleman, the undrafted rookie Douglas Coleman? I think we both, I don't know, Zach, if you were to rank it, going back to the signing bonuses, Bellamy, Bassey, Manning, Hilton, Neal, the quarterback, Coleman, Watts, who do you think are the 3 that have the best odds at cracking this roster?
Coleman, Bassey, and Bellamy. It's got to be those 3, Chad. That's. I think it's pretty cut and dry.
It really is. And I would say, Brett, there is some tape of Coleman on YouTube. His representation was kind enough to reach out to Mile High Huddle and send us a few cut-ups as well. So maybe since we have permission to use that cut-up, maybe we can do like a film breakdown, do a live film breakdown since we have permission. We don't have to worry about getting slapped with copyrights or anything. But he is a quintessential Fangio defensive back, and we're both really looking forward to seeing just what kind of a competitor he is in camp and how quickly he can take to Fangio's scheme, which is very safety and defensive back friendly. So it'll be interesting to see. James jumping in. Appreciate you, my friend.
James,
$5 super. Broncos back-to-back. That's what we do. Thanks, Elway, for then and now. So, James, I'm wondering, are you predicting back-to-back world champions again happening with this roster? Just curious. I'm not saying that with any note of skepticism. I'm just curious if that's what you're saying. It's like a bold prediction.
It could be that. It could be draft classes, Chad, 2 years in a row now. Actually, 3 years in a row, 2018, 2019, 2020. I don't know what that comment means necessarily, but I agree.
This is how dedicated John is, and a big-time member of our community. I know because of his work schedule, he's not always able to catch every single podcast. And as you guys know, we pride ourselves in being able to offer you a live podcast every day for every day in the week, 7 podcasts per week. John tries to make them, I know when he can, and just barely. He was watching on Twitch. You can't super chat on Twitch, so he moseys on over to YouTube just to show some love. And John, you know we appreciate you, my brother. It means the world to us.
The best. Broncos country. We'll say it again for the millionth time. You guys truly are the best.
John on YouTube, considering that Judy played in the slot over 60% of the time at Alabama, who starts on the outside between him and Hamler? It's going to be Judy.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the thing. Hamler playing at Penn State, he wasn't going up. I mean, again, it's Division I football, and don't get me wrong, but he wasn't going up against the cream of the crop, having to figure out how to get off the line of scrimmage against, NFL level press corners. I think that's going to take some time for him. And so that's why you want to utilize Hamler more because he's only 5'9". Okay. He's diminutive. He's basically the same. He's basically Isaiah McKenzie from a body type.
Right.
Not quite as thick as one of his heroes as Steve Smith, the ex-Panther, ex-Raven, and Deshaun Jackson is his two idols that he tried to model his game after. He's closer to Deshaun Jackson's body type, even though Jackson has an inch on him. Jackson's 5'10", he's 5'9". They're both about 175, 176 pounds. And if you're going up against a corner, Zach, that is very physical and whose mission it is to just jam you at the line of scrimmage, you have to have an answer for that. And I think physically it's going to take Hamler some time. Zach Azzanni is going to have to really work with him, which means, get back to what John's asking here, I think you're going to see when they roll three wide, you're going to see Jerry on the outside with Sutton more often than not, just because I'm not sure you can trust yet Hamler to get off press.
Yeah, it's all valid points. I hope that Broncos fans are kind of checking their expectations for someone like KJ Hamler. He's going to be like a souped-up Tavon Austin, a gadget player, a slot guy, a speed threat, at least initially until he develops in the NFL, puts on some mass, gets up to speed with the speed of the NFL, and he's not going to be in college anymore. He can't just blow past some certain cornerbacks or safeties. He's going to have to win, like Chad said, off of press coverage, beating guys off the line of scrimmage. It's going to be the Judy and Cortland Sutton show to start out, and Hamler's going to be sprinkled in there as a complementary weapon over the top, a third down receiver, punt returner, kick returner, that kind of guy. Just don't think he's going to pop off with 1,500 yards this year and 10 touchdowns. It's not going to happen for someone like KJ Hamler.
Agreed. Doesn't mean he can't still make a big impact, but
right.
Just temper your expectations just a little bit. James jumping in, big time member of our community, helps out. He's basically MHH staffer on Facebook with the Superfan group. Helps me out a ton. Saying, hey, and he's putting into stark contrast here, Zach, how and why. For example, Philip Lindsay will say when he was asked in that ESPN feature that, showed his that period of time when he was still living in the basement as a Bronco, as a Pro Bowler and all this stuff. Well, he was asked in that feature whether or not if he could change anything. Would he want to go in the first round? Would he still just want to be undrafted, et cetera, et cetera? He said, for the monetary reasons only, I would like to have been drafted. And you can see here why. I mean, just as a 7th-round pick, again, Philip Lindsay got $15K to come sign and compete in Denver. James points out here, per over the cap, the number 252 and 254 picks, all right, that the Broncos had in the 7th round, which were Tyree Cleveland and Derek Tuska. Following contract values, 4 years, total value $3.3 million, signing bonus of $75K. So in relation, it's a drop in the bucket. However, the signing bonus, again, for an undrafted rookie, it's usually somewhere between like $3 to $10,000 is usually the I would say the average, the window. So when you get to 15 and above, the team is saying something, even though it's not necessarily guaranteeing them anything. They are speaking with that. The love language in the NFL is money, and they are saying something.
Beyond money, though, it's also a pride thing to be drafted, Chad. I mean, how many people can say they've been drafted into the NFL, even as a 7th-round pick? And Philip Lindsay, considering his career in college, he was deserving of being a draft pick, and that's why he has those chips on his shoulder, a whole bag of them. I also have to think the Broncos didn't draft a running back, but they picked one up and gave him additional money. How does that sit with Philip Lindsay? It's just that on top of Melvin Gordon, not the greatest offseason for number 30.
This is the Overtime Podcast Network.
Speaking of which, Bob Morris dropped a phenomenal article today. Hopefully you guys saw it. We shared it in the community tab on our YouTube channel to just try and get it out to as much of our community as possible. The headline, let me find it here real quick. Bear with me 1 second, is this. The Saints model offers the Broncos a blueprint on getting solid return on Melvin Gordon's overpaid contract. And it's just a phenomenal piece. I recommend it's kind of a deep dive in depth, so I'm not going to go through it here on this conversation, but you brought up Melvin Gordon. There is a way for them to coexist, and it could end up being still a really good move for the Broncos, despite it being a classic overpay.
His what contract, though, Chad?
overpaid.
That's right. I'm not the only one who believes that. Good to know.
Westside Philly jumping in from the top rope with a very generous super chat. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you, Westside.
And if you're on Twitter, reach out and let us know so we can connect and know how to shout you out after the show. He says, hit that like button. You guys are essential. Hashtag state of being. That's cool. We appreciate it, my friend. You guys are essential to us. Trust on that. All right, let's see here. James, just for the sake of conversation, since we're talking about Bellamy and Philip Lindsay and Melvin Gordon, James says, personally, Royce Freeman is on notice more by Melvin Gordon. I think Bellamy, Bassey, Coleman all make the roster, so 3 of them making it this year, with Manning and Hilton, the 2 wideouts, landing on the practice squad, which is more protection with the practice squad. So we wouldn't be surprised if that's how it unfolds, James. 3 might be pushing it, but I think you're right that all 3 have a legit chance.
Right. Yeah, I agree with both of you, both of those points. All 3 have the best chance, but I think 2 at the most. 3 undrafted guys in 1 draft class, Chad. That's a lot to make the final roster. So I'd be surprised if 2 made it. And among those 2, I think Bassey and Coleman have the best odds.
King Hicks, it's good to see you, my brother. Welcome into the chat stream. Let's see here. Let's grab George, jumping from all the way at the top of MHH Mount Rushmore with the $10 super chat. So
Thank
consistent.
You,
and we love you, bro. That's all we can say. We appreciate you so much, man. And he says Gordon gets more than Lindsay. Now Bellamy gets more than Lindsay got when he first signed. Lindsay can't catch a break. Prove them all wrong, number 30. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily call it a hit, like the hits keep on coming for Lindsay, but it's just another chip on the shoulder. I mean, it's a world-sized chip now that he's carrying.
Yeah, he can't catch a break like the Broncos think he can't catch passes, Chad. And he's going to prove him wrong this year, and hopefully he gets his break next offseason, if not sooner.
Duke Rose, it's good to see you, Duke. It's been a couple of pods. Really appreciate that $10 super chat,
That's
my
awesome.
friend. I know that you are one of the superstars. When you're on a live stream, you show the love, and we really appreciate you, bro. Yeah. He says, what's up, big bros? Been gone for a minute, but I'm back. I think Derek Tuska might be nice, being under Vaughn and Chubb's wing to be a better pass rusher.
Agreed.
You know what? I mean, I'm trying to think. I think it was the conversation that I had on Saturday night with Eric on Dove Valley Deep Divers. We talked a little bit about, we talked about all the late round picks that night. That's right. And Tuska is a guy that, I mean, let's face it. You've got, once you get past Chubb, once you get past Vaughn, you got Jerry Atachu, who's almost a lock to make the roster. They re-signed him $1.5 million or whatever it was. He might have incentive to make more than that. But after Jerry Atachu, Malik Reed, God bless him, he had definitely outkicked his coverage, but also showed why he's a limited player. Doesn't mean he can't develop. Doesn't mean he can't keep growing. And then Justin Hollins, too. To this day, I know the Broncos think the world of Justin Hollins, but I still haven't seen it come out in the wash on the field yet. And maybe that's because the Broncos are asking him to do too much as a rookie, going between off ball and edge. But nevertheless, opportunity knocks for Derek Tuska to make this roster as a 7th-round pick, and it'll be interesting to see what he can do this summer.
I don't want to shroud it in hyperbole, Chad, but he reminds me a lot of TJ Watt. He's just a relentless motor as a pass rusher. He has winning moves again for speed, for power. I really like Tuska's game, but he suffers from the opposite of someone like Douglas Coleman. He doesn't have a clear path to the roster with Chubb, Vaughn, and the players you mentioned, including Malik Reed, Atachu, Justin Hollins. There's too many people in front of him. At the very least, though, practice squad guy, he could be on the 53 by midseason if an injury strikes or people disappoint ahead of him. He's definitely a player to watch in the later rounds.
JP jumping in with a $2 super, one of our superstars.
Thank you,
JP. See you, JP. Thank you. It was good talking to you earlier today. He says, saw what Bellamy got and hope Lindsay becomes a Hall of Famer. Yeah, I mean, it was 2 years ago. Values increase quite quickly in the NFL when it comes to contract values. But to almost get double what Philip Lindsay got, Philip Lindsay, by the way, that was just the signing bonus. Let's remind you that Bellamy also garnered $35K in a promised guarantee on his 2020 salary, which Lindsay never got that. So they're showing him a lot more love, and it makes me think also, Zach, that there's probably quite a bit of demand in terms of after the draft for Bellamy around the NFL.
It's funny, though. I mean, after Melvin Gordon signed, Broncos fans were saying that Philip Lindsay's replaceable, don't pay him, he's not worth it. Now that Bellamy joined the team, it's Philip Lindsay's a Hall of Famer and pay the guy. It's funny how fickle football fans can be, Chad, myself included.
And JP, for what it's worth, he's not calling you fickle. He's just pointing out the
narrative. Right.
Pobby jumping in. I hope I pronounced your name right. I'm trying to remember. I'm pretty sure that's the correct pronunciation. Really appreciate you, my friend. You kind of, I wouldn't say you came out of nowhere, but you are one of our newer listeners, at least in the live stream. And it's been great having you in the community. And we really appreciate your support.
Thank you.
She says, hi guys. Sorry I missed the live pod yesterday. Glad to be back. Thank you for all you do. Go Broncos. Amen to that, sister.
Thank you.
Let's see here. James, always bringing up interesting little nuggets. Philip Lindsay made $575K in 2019. There's performance escalators per the CBA. So no, Bellamy's not making more than Lindsay will in 2020 because Lindsay's contract increases to $755K as a third-year guy. So just keep that in mind, guys.
But to me, it's still just the fact they brought aboard another running back and gave that guy money and just handed him a guarantee. I don't know. If I was Philip Lindsay, it wouldn't sit right with me either, Chad.
Yeah, I feel you there. All right, let me see here. Sorry, I was just reading a couple comments here. Let's grab Dakota. Dakota? Dakota? I assume it's Dakota. Really appreciate that. If you're on Twitter, make sure you reach out to us so we can connect. You guys are the best. I used to have first take, but you guys are number one for sure. That's cool, man. That means a lot.
Yeah.
You guys rep well for Broncos country. Very kind. Really appreciate the props there, my friend. And again, if you're on Twitter, be sure to reach out and let's connect. Want to bring up some of the criticism that Eric and Lance got for their stance on the Broncos choosing, this is week-old news, right? This happened not just barely last weekend, but the weekend before. And they're basically questioning the Broncos' decision now to not pick up the fifth-year option. Eric is very, what's a good word to put it? He's very opinionated, but when he has an opinion, it's not just willy-nilly. It's based on a lot of in-depth analysis, and I don't always agree with him. It's just like, Zach and I, we don't agree on everything. Right. It's okay to have disagreements. It's okay not to see eye to eye. But the topic of Garrett Bowles within Broncos country is a very sensitive topic for a lot of obvious reasons, and we all know. So it's important not to take anything personal when you're hearing a take from an analyst, especially at Mile High Huddle, that might conflict with your individual take on the subject. So with that being said, and Bonnabees, thanks for putting some context there. Let's grab Oscar jumping in, $5 super.
Thank you, Oscar.
Really appreciate Oscar. I think that's 2 nights in a row. Really means a lot to us, my friend. And if you're on Twitter, reach out. The pods have been making the Q word more manageable for me. Thank you guys a lot. Hey, man.
Us too, Oscar. Seriously.
This helps keep us sane, my dog.
Yeah.
And Stu jumping in, $10 super, bona fide #1 OG when it comes to the Super Chat Superstars. And he's got his face carved out in effigy on MHH Mount Rushmore, undoubtedly. Appreciate you, Stu, so much. He says, thanks for the great pods. Thanks for just being a great supporter, great member of the community. You guys, you have no idea, Stu, how much you mean to us, my friend. Don't feel bad, Chad. Just a simple Italian girl, Denver Broncos for life. Michaela. I want to say, or is it? No, I want to say it's Mikola. It's Mikola. Right?
I think you had it the first time.
I'm going to be tripping on this, so you're going to have to correct me. And it doesn't have to come in a super chat, but just put it in there. Here's what I want you to do. If it's Mikola, put in 1. Just say 1. If it's Michaela, 2. Then I'll know for sure, and I'll never forget. But those type of things are important to me. All right, hold on. Let me make sure we're not missing anybody. Let's grab Chris here. Appreciate that $10 super, my friend. Shout out again from Luke Air Force Base in Arizona. That's right. Appreciate your service, man.
Yes,
For
sir.
guys like Zach and I, we really mean that. That means a lot to us. And to everybody serving in the medical included. Could you imagine the media bandwagons if the Broncos did turn into the Seahawks from their Super Bowl year? #haters. Yeah, and that brings up a interesting thing that we got roped into. I think you were tagged on the same tweet, that Raiders podcast that was ranking the AFC West, didn't even bring up Drew Lock, and throwing a little shade the Broncos way passive-aggressively. But yeah, dude, I mean, I could see it happening. I'm not making that as a bold prediction that the Broncos are, 2020's version of the 2013 Seahawks, but stranger things have happened in this league.
People don't hate losers, though, Chad. So if people are hating Drew Lock, it means he's doing something right. No one hates Derek Carr, for example. So what does that say about the Raiders and Carr's prowess? So
Nobody hates Derek Carr.
I will say this, though. Even if the Broncos go 16-0 and hoist the Lombardi next February, there's going to be people who are hating on Denver. Oh, let's see them do it next year. Oh, they won by the skin of their teeth. There are always going to be people who are hating on the Broncos. And we as fans, like the players have done and analysts have done, have to embrace the hate.
King Hicks jumping in, bona fide superstar. Appreciate you, bro.
Thank you, King.
Shout out to Terry, Randall Bronx, legend, Wanna Beast, Dylan, and Brian, my MHH family. Love talking to you guys, showing some love. Let's keep this positivity going round. # Broncos World.
That's super
cool, man.
Yeah.
Look, and by the way, speaking of Broncos World and the MHH family, John, that's hilarious. I'm actually doing my dishes right as Chad said that. I mean, we all find ways to work in the content that is important to us, whether it's our commutes, whether it's our at the gym, whatever. And it's just really neat to hear how you guys kind of fit us in. Pickle Nick, love you, dog. Appreciate you. Let's see what EA Shalom wants to know here. Does it say anything about the talent level if the Broncos have 3 undrafted rookies that make the team? Not necessarily. Zach, what's your answer?
It means they have a great scouting department. That's all it really means if they can find 3 guys that are undrafted and have them be on the 53. It says nothing about their talent. It means they have an eye for scouting gems that are under turned over rocks. Philip Lindsay was an undrafted guy, and every NFL team would take him on the roster right now.
Undoubtedly. Dakota jumped back in. Another $2 super. Appreciate you, my friend. Drew Lock for MVP. Locked and loaded. Hey, man, I don't know what the odds are. I haven't checked with the sports book on this, but might not be bad to take a look at that. You get some good odds anyway. All right, bear with me 1 second here. Here's a good point. James just drops knowledge. It's awesome. Jerry Jeudy has to have a wider knowledge of the entire offense from the slot and the Z position if he's going to play both positions. He's more optimal in the slot, but when the Broncos got Hamler, Judy's more likely to be the Z. And for those of you who are trying to understand what that means, at the height of the Demaryius Thomas, Emmanuel Sanders partnership in Denver, DT was the X. So putting that into today's mold, Cortland Sutton is the X. The Z was Emmanuel Sanders, the other outside. And that's probably where Jerry Jeudy is going to find himself here. All right, let me see here. Dakota with a super sticker. I think that's like the 3rd or 4th super sticker we've ever gotten, Zach.
I still don't know what it is. Yeah.
I still don't know exactly what the difference is between that and a super chat, but we really appreciate the love, Dakota.
Thank you.
All right, let me see here from Dion Rodriguez. That's a new name that I don't necessarily recognize on super chat. Thank you, Dion.
Good to see you, Dion.
Very, very generous way to jump in with both feet. Appreciate that. He says, appreciate the content, guys. Keep it up. Good season or bad season, I love my Broncos. # state of being. For what it's worth, there was a report that Sports Illustrated ran with today that talked about, I think actually it was Sports Illustrated covered it, but the conversation was Peter King and Dr. Anthony Fauci. And Fauci basically, for the first time that I've seen, is actually talking with realism that, worst case scenario, NFL plays with without fans in the stands, as long as players, get checked and aren't sick or aren't running fevers and stuff like that. So I think fans are going to get their Denver Broncos this year. I don't think you really have to worry too much about that. It's just a matter of, can we all be there? Are media going to be up in the booth? Are fans going to be in the stands? Are we going to be able to tailgate? All the cool cultural things that we all relish and appreciate about being fans of this game. Hopefully we get that too. Only time will tell.
Yeah, I mean, we can't see into the future, but I feel like there's going to be a football season, and it's going to be, to answer your question, Dion, or your statement, it's going to be a good season for the Broncos, not a bad season. That's what Chad and I truly feel for 2020.
Facebook, we can't ignore our awesome Facebook audience. Zach wants to know, are we looking at some offensive tackle depth?
Oh, I hope so.
Yeah, what's your answer on that subject?
I mean, I think everybody knows how I feel about it. I would bring in a Jason Peters or a Cordy Glenn or Kelvin Beachum. I would not chance it when you have Garrett Bowles, who's one snap away from being bad Garrett, and you have Juwan James, who's one hangnail away from missing multiple games. How could you chance that when you have the year of Drew Lock, when you've already invested in a guard, a center, wide receivers, tight ends? You have everything else in place. Why leave tackle, the most important position, especially left tackle, up to chance? So I think they should, but whether they are, we don't know.
Adon Moreno jumping in with the $10 super.
Thank you, Adon.
Really appreciate that. Don't recognize your name either on Super Chat, so welcome to the manger, my friend. And if you're on Twitter, make sure you reach out so that we can connect. He says, hi, guys. How do y'all feel about the undrafted rookie signing in Douglas Coleman III out of Texas Tech? I like that he's played both corner and safety and has an eye for the ball. Hashtag Broncos fan in West Texas. State of being, baby. You know, you might have just jumped in on this conversation, Adon, so we'll cut you some slack on that. Really appreciate the love.
Yeah.
We talked quite a bit about Coleman already today, but both Zach and I, we think he's one of the top 3 candidates of this crew of undrafted rookies, this crop, if you will, that has the best chance of making this roster. We think he's a great fit for Fangio's scheme, and we're really looking forward to seeing what he can do this summer.
It's cool to see so many Coleman fans too, Chad. It seems like he has a groundswell of support. So if Broncos fans are realizing the collective ability and of Coleman, I think the coaching staff does as well. And Vic Fangio, he molds safeties like he changes pants. It's just easy and second nature for him. And I think Coleman's the next prodigy, or at least the next project for Vic Fangio.
Yeah. Mike York on YouTube, thank you for the question, says, Spencer, Patrick, Hamilton, and or Winfrey, are they at risk of losing out to Cleveland, Manning, and or Hinton?
No.
I really don't see it. I think even Cleveland, who was a 7th-round pick, I think he's probably practice squad this year just because, you know, the Broncos, Eric's right that the Broncos don't have a lot of proven NFL wide receiver talent beyond Cortland Sutton, but let's face it, Jerry Jeudy's a first-round pick, one of the most coveted wide receivers in this class. KJ Hamler was a second-round pick. They really upgraded the talent there. And then you've still got Hamilton. You still got Patrick. I think both those guys are, unless one of these younger guys can just come in and just put a stranglehold, which I don't necessarily see happening based on what I know of these guys. I think Patrick, Hamilton, or Locke. Spencer, it just depends on how much they want to utilize KJ Hamler as a returner. If they want to use him as a returner, I don't see a place on this team for Spencer, which could open up an additional spot for a Cleveland, Manning, or Hinton. But I honestly think it's going to probably be my bold prediction would be Cleveland is a practice squad guy initially, might end up getting called up to the 53 at some point in the season if injuries crop up. Hinton as well as a strong practice squad guy that might be a year or so out from really being able to impact.
I'd be surprised if Cleveland, Manning, or Hinton made the 53 as well. And I think Winfrey's back on the practice squad. He'll be cut. As Spencer, you don't use a second-round pick on a wide receiver, then keep a guy in Spencer just to return punts or kicks. So you don't have to take up a roster spot for that one sole job. So he's going to be cut more than likely. It's going to come down maybe to Tim Patrick versus Deshaun Hamilton, though I think both are safe. But none of the rookie guys, none of the young guys are going to be on the final roster, Chad.
One of our superstars, Nad Ludlow, jumping in with a $2 super. Appreciate that. And I'm hearing buzz here in the stream that you received your mug. Nice. No Twitter for Nad, but as Buana says here, we really appreciate you. And thanks, my friend. Enjoy it. And if you do ever start a Twitter account, you know what? Even if you don't have a Twitter account, it might be you have an IG, an Instagram account, or a Facebook account. Send us a selfie with the swag. We'll give you a shout out. Maybe we do it on YouTube too, because we know you have YouTube, right? So send us a little screenshot. And in worst case scenario, you can email it, milehighhuddle@gmail.com. And it looks like he's got a DVD shirt on the way too. Very cool, man. We appreciate you. All right, let's see here. Yeah, Vinay here. I saw this somewhere on Twitter where someone who covers the Raiders on a podcast said Drew Lock is Baker Mayfield without the winning. He is so cocky. Lock is already under Raiders fans' skins. Yeah,
winning.
That's what I was hinting at earlier. I want to say it was Ryan Koenigsberg from the DNVR somehow found this pod and quote tweeted it. And yeah, I mean look, Drew Lock came in here, finished 4-1. One of those 4 teams that he vanquished was who? The Raiders, Oakland Raiders then. So there's no love lost just based on that alone. And the fact that, yeah, he does have swag, dude. And if you're a rival, you might appreciate that when he's in your own locker room, Zach. But when you're a rival, some of those guys, they don't like seeing that. They want to pop you in the mouth, or they want to, take their pot shots, if you will.
He's one of those guys that you hate if he's playing against you, but you love him if he's on your team. And that's Drew Lock. But Baker Mayfield, what has he done in the NFL? He had a decent rookie year where he was a flash in the pan for a really bad team, but last year he fell off a cliff. And whereas Drew Lock in 5 starts with a way less talented supporting cast, worse coaching as far as I'm concerned, he went 4-1, knocked off 2 playoff contending teams. For my money, in that short 5-game little span, that little experiment, he was better than Baker Mayfield from a consistency standpoint, from a quarterbacking standpoint. So Baker Mayfield, that's just a Raiders fan for you, I guess.
They hate us because they ain't us.
That's right.
Kevin P. jumping in, $5 super. Really appreciate you, Kevin. You've become a big-time member of the community, and it's been good to also connect with you on Twitter, my friend. He says, number 28 was garbage in 2019. Gordon is much needed, talking about Freeman, since we cut corners with contracts in the offseason and have the guru math guy. Hashtag Florida strong, hashtag state of being. Yeah, I mean, Freeman, he was disappointing in year 2, and it wasn't just the fans. The Broncos, obviously, follow the money. The Broncos were not happy with Royce Freeman. I think they expected him to take a much bigger leap forward in year 2. And honestly, Zach, the way I explain, I don't want to say justify my explanation for why that is. It's not just the high ankle sprain that he suffered week 9 against the Texans as a rookie that really blew open the door as far as Lindsey's path to being the guy. It's the fact that Lindsey outshined him. Think back. There was a lot of storylines because Lindsey was a local guy, Denver born, CU, all that stuff. We were covering the team that summer, and there were definitely Lindsey storylines because he was doing so well. But most of the expectation and the buzz and the hype going into that summer and in through the preseason all the way to the beginning of the season, it was on Royce Freeman, the 3rd-round pick, the Oregon Duck that was going to come in and be the next guy for the Broncos. And I think Lindsey eclipsing him with so much authority, going all the way to a Pro Bowl, not only the 1,000 yards rushing, but the Pro Bowl, I think that had a bigger effect on Freeman's psyche, his confidence, his vision of himself, his vision of his own standing within the club than maybe even the Broncos realized.
All valid points that I agree with, but the Broncos are complicit as well because they knew what they were drafting in Royce Freeman. Chad, he had 1 billion carries at Oregon. He had not much tread left on his tires. They knew what they were getting in him, and for that high ankle sprain, which is the worst injury a running back can suffer, it did him in, and they never gave him another chance. I hope he comes back motivated, but Kevin, if you're referring to Mike Sullivan, he's no longer in the building, the same cap guy. Now they have Rich Hurtado. They gave Melvin Gordon $16.5 million. Are really they cutting corners? I don't know about that.
Good point. James jumping back in, $5 super. Appreciate you, James. And if you're on Twitter, make sure you reach out, my friend. Lindsey, the only undrafted running back that hit 1,000 yards in his first 2 seasons. That's right. He has a lot of individual records, to be honest with you, including the only undrafted rookie offensive player to make a Pro Bowl his rookie year. There's a lot of things. What is it? He's one of 4 running backs in team history. The Broncos have a storied rushing history. Terrell Davis, Floyd Little, going way back, but that was way before the Shanahan days. But he's one of 4 to post back-to-back 1,000-yard rushing seasons. He is not chopped liver, and he's not to be messed with.
It's just so crazy, though, because the last couple months I've been bringing up that very same point to justify Philip Lindsay's contract. Everyone's writing it off like it's just 66 yards a game. 1,000 yards, not that much. But we all celebrated when C.J. Anderson barely knocked over the mark a couple years ago. So it's funny watching how opinions change throughout Broncos country and NFL minds. You bring in Melvin Gordon, Lindsay's chopped liver. You bring in Bellamy, now he's a Hall of Famer. It's just pretty funny.
Yeah, that's the thing is when we talk about – in a perfect world, I want Lindsey to get that money. But now at this point, after you've given $8 million a year to Melvin Gordon as a team, it just doesn't make sound football economic sense to then give another high max level contract to Philip Lindsay. Unfortunately, you'll sometimes see big contracts for 2 different receivers on the same roster, but you don't usually see it at the running back position. And that's one of the reasons why Zach and I were so perturbed when the Melvin Gordon deal was made. It had nothing to do with Melvin Gordon, to be honest with you. Right. It had to do with the implications for Philip Lindsay. Yeah. Dale jumping in with an extremely, extremely generous super chat from all the way up. You peer through the clouds, you can see the top of MHH Mount Rushmore. That's where Dale's at. Really appreciate you, brother.
Salute you.
Hawaii, in fact. If the late draft picks are worth $3 million plus, at this point, Philip Lindsay should be paid more. And I wouldn't be mad if he held out.
That's what I'm saying.
Great job, Chad and Zach. Hashtag state of being, baby. Dale, thank you so much, Dale. Yeah, you know we appreciate you, bro.
That's amazing. I just think a couple weeks ago before the draft, if Lindsay's holdout, people were saying, cut him, get rid of him, he's not worth it. Now they're advocating for him to get his bag and hold out until he gets his money. It's funny, Chad.
Dale, by the way, I need to know how many are in your home so I can send you the things we were talking about on Gmail. Get you some masks, but I wanted to know how many are in your home so I know how many to get sent your way, my friend. So holler back at me. There's an email waiting. Just search, you'll find it. And if you want to get in on that, as Wannabe says here, if you'd like some cool gear, hats, mugs, shirts, hoodies, check out the link. He put the actual link, or just go to huddleuppod.com. That's the easiest thing to remember, huddleuppod.com. Boom, you're there. And there's a little something for everybody. Boy, girl, summer, winter, a little something for everybody. Brett jumping back in, $10 super.
Thank you, Brett.
The Brett-tastic one, that's right. Do you think John Elway dislikes Lindsay? And if so, why do you think it is? No, he doesn't dislike Lindsay. I mean, it makes him look bad, and in a weird way. Like, you want the credit for finding Lindsay, but at the same time, it also casts a weird passive-aggressive aspersion on you, Zach, because you didn't draft him. If you were so confident that he was going to be a stud, why didn't you draft? What kind of adds additional levels of complexity to this issue, hence the question, I think, from Brett, the Broncos promised Lindsay that they were going to take him, and they ended up taking David Williams in the 7th round, and he was fit to be tied. Lindsay, he was pissed off, dude. Mm-hmm. The Ravens wanted him. That's where he was planning on going. To hell with the Broncos. And then Mama Lindsay stepped in and altered course here and just said, no, you should stay in Denver. You can live at home. All these different benefits to staying in Denver, and because it's the right thing for you. Like, she could see, for whatever reason, mother's instinct, mother's whatever. They have magic. You know this. We were just talking about this yesterday. It was Mother's Day, for crying out loud. You got to thank Mama Lindsay for ensuring that Philip ended up taking the Broncos offer, staying in Denver. But you do wonder, Zach, about exactly how Elway views him. Unfortunately, I don't think it has anything to do with liking or disliking. I think it comes down to football priorities. And on Elway's list, paying Lindsay right now, it's just it's not important to him right now.
Yeah, I don't think he dislikes him. Elway gets a weird bone to pick. He has a weird axe to grind with certain players, and I think he doesn't believe Philip Lindsay's worth the investment, considering he doesn't quote-unquote catch passes, or he's not a three-down running back, he's not a workhorse. And Elway and the Broncos coaches believe Melvin Gordon is more of a true workhorse, and thus the contract that he got. I think Elway likes Lindsay to a point, but he wants him to prove himself, to see the last 2 years weren't outliers. They weren't flash in the pans. This is the real deal. And if you perform again in year 3, then we'll pay you, but not a day sooner.
John with a 99-cent super chat. Thank you, John.
Thank you, John.
That means the world to us, and it's been cool to have your questions and comments in this chat stream. And that's one of the things that we love about and look forward to each and every stream is, like we've talked about before, Zach and I used to put a lot of time in terms of, when it's just two guys talking, you want it to be natural, you want it to vibe, you want it to flow, you want it to kind of be based off your chemistry, but at the same time, you need to have specific things you're going to talk about in order to keep the content flowing. And we used to put a lot of time into thinking up our rundowns for every podcast. We'd sit down, we'd record them, the whole 9 yards.
The dark ages.
It doesn't even scratch the surface in terms of enjoyment for us. That being in a live setting with you guys, reacting to what's on your mind, talking about the issues that are important to you, we really enjoy it. So appreciate you, John. G jumping in, $5 super. Thank you, Gio. Also, reach out to us on Twitter and your YouTube profile pic. It's killer, but I would change the top if you can from Bronco Nation to Broncos Country, just to be within orange and blue orthodoxy. It is, in fact, Broncos Country is the team's official hashtag for what it's worth. A lot of Broncos fans, God bless them and bless their hearts, Zach, they just don't know that. So, you think a lot of teams go with Nation, right? Cowboy Nation, or isn't it Cowboy Nation?
Mm-hmm. Raider Nation. Yeah.
Raider Nation. It's out there. Chiefs is unique. Broncos is unique. Chiefs Kingdom, Broncos Country, Bills Mafia. So it's understandable that you would say Nation, but I'm just telling you, I'm just trying to help you out, Doc. My two favorite guys, appreciate you, Gio. It's been a while. Been working on opening a business. Very cool. We'll let y'all know more soon. Hey, man, we're all ears. We want to hear all about it, dude, and we hope it crushes. Just ready for some football. Hashtag Broncos, hashtag state of being.
What kind of business? I'd like to know.
We'd be curious to know, man, and we'll support you however we can, bro. So you let us know when the time is right, and we'll look forward to that. All right. I'm looking to see if the Michaela question was answered here. I probably scrolled by it unwittingly.
It's like Laurel and Yanni for you, Chad.
It really is. All right, hold on, guys. 1 second. I'm scrolling back up. Hey, there's a super chat superstar, David Kilgore, jumping in.
Thank you, David.
I think he's etched himself out of place on the MHH Mount Rushmore. He's been so consistent for as long as I can remember now.
It's a row.
It's true. But we're the Rockies. We got room for a couple of Mount Rushmore. That's right. Rockies, right? David, appreciate you, my friend. He says, just wanted to say hello. Appreciate all you do. You and Zach do. Thanks, my brother. We appreciate you. Believe that. All right. We're starting to run out of time. Let's grab. Oh, hold on. I'm coming right back to you, Jay. So it's Michaela. It's not Michaela. It's Michaela. I'll remember that. Boom. Settled.
You're so happy right now.
All right, Jay. Appreciate that $2 super, buddy.
Thank you, Jay.
And reach out if you're on Twitter. Who's the greatest undrafted rookie in Broncos history? It's Rod Smith.
Mm-hmm.
Undisputed. Yeah. Undisputed. I mean, look, there's Chris
Harris is up there. Yeah. Philip Lindsay, but Rod Smith's. I agree.
I think you could come to blows with Harris and the Rod Smith. Both helped bring home world championships. Both made multiple Pro Bowls. In fact, I think Rod Smith, off the top of my head, I want to say he made 3 Pro Bowls. Chris Harris actually has 4. Rod Smith had more years with the Broncos, 1 extra world championship than Chris. So there's a legitimate argument to be made for either guy. For me, Rod Smith was more meaningful in terms of Broncos, canon, what he meant to because it wasn't just the Super Bowl teams of the late 90s. He helped keep the passing game afloat after John Elway retired. Ed McCaffrey couldn't stay healthy, had to kind of exit probably a lot sooner than, if he played 10 years later, he probably would have continued to play. And so Rod Smith, Shannon Sharp left for Baltimore for a time and then came back, but Rod Smith kept that passing game afloat through the Greaseys, the Gerbacks, the Danny Cannells of the world. And then you got Jake Plummer and things really kind of went to another level. But Rod Smith deserves a lot of credit. I think, he's, as an undrafted guy, Zach, he's got over 10,000 receiving yards. He should be in the Hall of Fame. And I'm not sure you could say that about Chris Harris Jr. And maybe it's just my own bias. I don't know for sure, but that's my take.
What I like about Rod Smith, too, he wasn't blaming Ed McCaffrey when he messed up like Chris Harris Jr. would do. So he was just a better player, a more humble guy. I'm agree with you, more of an impactful contributor. But it just goes to show you the Broncos' lush history with undrafted free agents. Even before John Elway was GM, they just managed to find that guy every single year. And it's not an indictment on their talent level. It's an indictment positively on their coaching and scouting departments.
King Gummy Bear. Really cool handle you got there, my friend. Hey, guys, not been able to make the last few live podcasts, but I finally made one. Good to have you. What's going on? DeWalter Drills? Thanks, Bonna. It's been rough. Down to my last dollars. Tell us what's happened, dude. Is it the economy? I'm trying to scroll up and see. I know that there was. Well, guys, that job came through. I'm off to Sioux City, Iowa for 3 months. Oh, nice. Okay. Well, that's good. I mean, it's bittersweet because we assume that might affect your ability to be on every live stream, but you can still listen to every podcast after the fact, so you'll be fine. And I think there's some congrats on that. I mean, you got the job, so congrats to you on that, my friend. And if things get rocky, reach out to us. Let us know if and how we can help you. All right, guys, running out of time. I want to make sure we're not missing any of our superstars, so bear with me 1 second here. Where are we at? We're at 104. Let's grab Derek. We'll rapid fire these ones. Derek, just jumping in. $2 super. No question tonight. Just showing some love for the pod.
Thank you, Derek.
So cool, man. Thanks, Derek. Kiokolo. Man, I wish my name was that cool.
Don't even try it, Chad.
$5 super. Should I go down the rabbit hole? Thank you, my friend.
Thank you.
Off topic, but can Christian Covington, this is the new defensive lineman the Broncos signed, former Cowboy, provide pass rush from the one tech? Excuse me. Harris, Covington, Casey could be a dynamic interior pass rush. So do you see him playing nose tackle, in other words, Zach?
No, I think he's a 3 or 5 technique tackle, Chad. I don't see him on the nose. That's Mike Purcell, maybe Jarrell Casey in sub packages. But what I like about Covington, he's not just a pass rusher. He's not just a run stuffer. He's not a Zach Curler or a Billy Wynn. He can really do multiple things. And he was a solid, sneaky pickup by Denver. And I believe Mike Kliss put out his contract details, Chad. What he got guaranteed based on the structure of his deal, DeMarcus Walker is on very thin ice now.
Yeah. Yep, I saw that. You were talking about that on Twitter today, and I don't disagree, man. It's a shot across Walker's bow, undoubtedly. Derek, welcome. It's good to have you.
Yeah.
NorCal 91 jumping in, $2 super. Thank you. What's the emoji? I'm trying to put up 120 yards with two tutties with Lindsey on Oakland. Heck yeah, dude. But what's he saying there?
I think it means Madden. I don't know. I assume.
Okay. Well, if it's getting lost in translation, NorCal 91, just know that we appreciate the love, and we're like you. We're rooting for Lindsey to keep on just dominating, dude, and proving people wrong and outkicking his coverage. That's what we want to see. All right, guys, bear with me just a second more here. Okay, there was NorCal. We got 3 more, and then we have to bid you a good evening from Pobby jumping in again. Thank you. $10 super. Hi, Chad and Zach. I ordered a T-shirt and a mug like a week ago. How long does it take to be shipped? Just curious. Love the Broncos country. So that's a good question. Far be it from us to want to disincentivize anybody from getting what they want at the merch store. We received notification probably a month ago that orders are slightly delayed with the third-party provider that we use for all the merch. That, you know, when the order comes in, they get it, they use our design, they make it, they stitch it, they do all the stuff. If it's a screen print, whatever they do, they take care of that. And it's a slight delay. And so where it used to be, Zach, before the name that shall go unmentioned hit,
it was quick.
It was a 2-day turnaround, and then it was just a road time from there. And it's a little bit longer now. I would say it's probably a 3 or 4 day average to ship, and then the road time. So you're probably from the date you ordered, a week to a week and a half, somewhere in there. And if it's been longer than that, I'm happy to reach out and let them know. Just DM me or something on Twitter, Pobby, and I'll be happy to check that out. But just bear with us a little bit on that. We are at mercy of whatever their working conditions are at this time, and they just let us know that they will have slight delays. They're not turning down orders. They're not turning anyone away, but it's just a slight delay. So just bear with us.
Same thing as Amazon as well. Anyone who's ordered something off Prime, it's taken a little longer than it usually takes. It's just the issue going on right now is delaying everything, as we all well know.
George jumping back in with a great message. Really appreciate you, George.
Thank you, George. Have
a great start to the week, guys. See you Wednesday. Indeed, you shall. And we will look forward to talking with you then. Last one here, guys, I think. Then we got to get out. Damien jumping in. Good to see you, Damien. $10 super.
Thank you, Damien.
Hey, guys, been on a work hiatus. Was following up. I'm just not sold on the offensive line or cornerback. What are we going to do? Well, we're not sold either, Damien. There's a lot of young bodies at cornerback. Vic Fangio's message at this point, I think their philosophy is they want to see they expect someone to rise, 1 or 2 guys to rise above. And unless nobody does, I don't think they're going to make any additional moves at corner. I just don't think it's going to happen. Offensive line, hey, man, that interior is looking stacked right now. It's just a question of, are you set at tackle? Unfortunately, both of your projected starters have something that you don't love, whether it's Juwan James' injury concerns and availability, or Garrett Bowles' penchant for the, stupid penalty, etc. So, but still, for whatever reason, both those, there doesn't seem to be urgency on the Broncos' part, Zach, to remedy either one of those things, which just tells you the internal thinking on this issue is night and day from the external.
Yeah, I mean, they kind of showed their hand by not signing Amukamara for 2 months before the draft, and they used a third-round pick on Amugia. What's his Michael O? I'm going to call him Michael O. Ojemudia. Okay, I had a brain fry there for a second. And they also had Bassie as an undrafted free agent. So between the guys they have on the roster, I think they're set there, or at least they feel like they're set. Offensive line, you got to bring in a tackle. You can't go into the season with just Garrett Bowles, Juwan James, and Elijah Wilkinson. You cannot do it. So hopefully Peters, Beachum, or Cordy Glenn come into Dove Valley sooner than later.
Buona Beast reminding everybody and thanking everybody for joining this live pod. Leave a like and subscribe. That's a great point, man. Good thing we've got Buona Beast to keep us sharp. Yes, about 40% of our YouTube audience is not subscribed to Mile High Huddle on YouTube. So I don't understand why that is, but they listen and watch every single day, but they're not subscribed. My advice to you, if you're one of those, subscribe. There are benefits. What are the benefits? You actually get notifications every time we upload a video and or go live. So there are some bennies. Take care of that. And then, head to milehighhuddle.com, guys, if you want to keep the conversation going. That's where we're hanging out all day long. John jumping back in again. Really appreciate you, Jonathan.
That's awesome.
No message, just showing love. Just so cool, man.
Yeah.
And then he just goes back and forth from YouTube to Twitch, just hops on YouTube to Super Chat. I don't think I missed it. I think I got him right.
I think he meant that one, yeah.
Yeah, okay, good. One last thing I just want to see here. Bear with me 1 second. Yeah, this happens. A lot of times what we see, NorCal, is maybe someone watching disagrees with one of our takes. So now they dislike the video.
I bet it's mine.
Hey, man, charge it to the game. It's all good. Listen up, guys. Thank you for joining us tonight, each and every one of you, for taking time and not only viewing, those of you who are active in the conversation in the chat stream. We really appreciate you. Mile high salute to our Super Chat superstars. You guys mean everything to us. And each and every podcast, you guys blow us away. Make sure you're following the pod on Twitter at HuddleUpPod. Easy to do. And while you're at it, you also want to make sure you're following the main account at Mile High Huddle. My partner, Zack Kelberman, at Kelberman NFL. And you can find me at Chad and Jensen. Stay tuned because Zach and I are off tomorrow night, but we'll be back Wednesday night, 6:15 Mountain, 8:15 Eastern. Meanwhile, Nick and Carl will be having a live stream, of course, tomorrow night, building the Broncos at 6 Mountain, 8 p.m. Eastern. So, Zach, like George was saying, man, have a great start to your week, bro. We'll talk in a day or two.
Have a great Tuesday, Chad. And I think we found the dislike. It was got it. Nope. It was Ben Lee. The one dislike is a Chiefs fan watching. So we nailed the Chad. We got it.
There you go. See? And that's true as well. That's true as well. All right, guys. Thanks again. Good to see you. Good to talk to all you guys. And for Zach, I'm Chad. We'll see you again on Wednesday night.
You've been listening to the Huddle Up Podcast. Join Broncos Country's deep divers at milehighhuddle.com to keep the conversation going.